So, to start it off, give us a brief introduction. What is MSP Growth Hub?
Want to go first?
That's what we want. Perfect.
The MSP Growth Hub is a coaching program for MSPs, a support network, community, training opportunities where we help MSPs to work on their business rather than in it. So from a non-technical point of view, sales, vision, marketing, team building, building the great business that sits behind many, many technical businesses. And Stuart and I got together three years ago now. Both were individual business coaches doing the same thing, working only in the MSP space. And it was Stuart who reached out to me and said, could we have more fun, help more people, change more lives and have a bigger impact if we did this together?
The rest is history.
Yeah.
We put our clients
Wow.
together and build it out. Because we understand the journey that MSPs, if they want to scale their business up and leverage it beyond a lifestyle business, which is them and maybe one or two others, we understand the journey they have to go on because we've done this in many, many businesses and we've done it collectively for now 8 years in the MSP space and being able to help. It's about empowering MSP business owners to tap the potential of themselves and their business and why they started it. And if they want to, we have a proprietary roadmap of how to get them there.
Did you feel you had two drastically different ways of approaching what you were doing? So did you have different methods, different coaching? It would be really good to touch on why you complemented each other so much.
The reason we're together is because we're different, but we're aligned in where we want to go. And when you align people in anything, take a football team, any sporting analogy works for this.
Yes.
Any team thing, if people are aligned working together, they can go faster. And with Ian and I working together and having complementary skills, different weaknesses, but when you combine it, we're stronger. As long as we are aligned in where we want to go, which is what Ian was just alluding to, us working out, then the rest is easy.
So do you think that a lot of MSPs, certainly, well, in the world, but let's focus on the UK, are a lot of MSPs without that sort of guidance, without that structure? And why do they need the community and the type of business that MSP Growth Hub is to help them? What are they missing?
I think the thing is probably 95% of MSPs started off as a techie.
Yes.
And he fixed his laptop. And then someone else said, could you fix my laptop? Before he knows it, he's got 30 laptops. And then he's got 60 and he needs a person to help him. And then he becomes very technical. And as he's growing, and Stuart will talk in a minute about the MSP journey that we know every single MSP, whether you like it or not, if you're an MSP, you're on it in some way, shape or form, and the emotions and the challenges and all the things that you'll feel with it. But, it's all been very, very much based, up till probably 2 or 3 people and up to 300,000-400,000. When it flicks over from a lifestyle business to a, hang on a minute, I've got something here that I'm building an asset, it then goes from oh crikey, there's all this business stuff that I've got to do. My accounts, what does that mean? Why can't I spend that money on that? I'm getting referrals, which is quite good. And I think as long as you stay in business, an MSP can grow quite steadily without any sales and marketing at all.
Yes.
In fact, most of our clients don't do any sales and marketing for at least the first year that they're working with us, because there's so much untapped low-hanging fruit within the business, efficiency, operations, account management, and all of this, the framework Stuart was talking about, built into there. We don't even have to worry about any new sales and marketing. So we actually run that in tandem at the same time because it takes a long time. But all of a sudden, there's all this business stuff that needs to get done.
Would you say that there is actually a big mindset shift that has to occur when you're at the one-man band or the five-man shop, where you have to separate it from yourself, where you're treating it as this ecosystem of stuff, of moving parts, and that's the bit that most people fall short of?
An analogy is learning to drive a car. We drive cars without thinking about it now. We're highly competent at getting the best from getting from A to B safely whilst doing something else, listening to a podcast.
Yes.
And so when you start out in business, you're selling your time and you're selling your expertise because it's just you. And then, as Ian says, you get to a point where you're like, oh, well, either I stand still here at that level, coping, enjoying it. Hopefully it's paying me a reasonable wage. But in some cases it isn't.
No.
Because you're working 70 hours a week and you're only paying yourself maybe 40 grand, 50 grand sometimes, which when you're doing all the work and taking all the risk, you could go and get a job. So I think there's a mind shift, and as people get older, maybe they get married, life becomes more complicated, more people rely on you. There are points where we go, I need to do something different. And either I go and get a job, or I stand still and make it better, at this size, or something allows us to realise that actually this could be something that works for me rather than me for it.
Yeah.
And so our philosophy is around what we call ONN, owner not needed. So if you want a business that works without you, because if you're not having to do the work, your hourly rate transforms, compounds. Because if you can earn 100 grand a year working 2 days a week, overseeing your business, what's your hourly rate compared to working 80 hours a week for 50 grand?
Well, you've stopped exchanging your time for money directly.
And that's what a business does. And that's why it becomes an asset that gives you a return.
Yes.
Without necessarily you having to pour your own energy into it. And when people get that concept, it's like, wow, yes, please. It's not for everyone though.
No.
But those that do go, yes, I'd love that, then that's a new journey of learning different skills. So that's when we start to say, right, what got me here isn't what's going to get me there. And so I'm a great technician. I either carry on doing that, or I have to learn some new skills, put my L plates on, and learn how to set up my financial system appropriately, or know how to ask somebody to do it, know what I want from it so that they do it right for me, know how to hire people and manage people and set goals and all of that complicated stuff that isn't technology.
No, it's really interesting to hear you say that, because I remember in the early years, I did every single role in the business. So I knew how to use Sage inside out.
Yep.
I would prep it all to hand over to the accountants for the end of the year. HR issues, I mean, the amount of time I spent on the ACAS website, goodness knows why. But there was no problems, by the way. I was
Of course not.
just research. But I went through every single role. Now, looking back, I realised there's so much of that I could have shortcut out had I had different people around me.
Yep.
But how many MSPs do you come across who find it just insurmountable to recognise that somebody can do these things better than they can, and that they can relinquish, that responsibility, they can give that trust over? If you had to put a number on it, how many would you say actually make that leap?
So it's really interesting point. I don't know if I can answer that question, because you will get people who come towards us and it's like some sales, pushing an open door. They'll come in, I need this, let's get on, let's crack on, let's deal with it. And we spend a lot of time working on, the profiles of our clients and who they are and what they're scared about and what reservations they have. But we also have people who have been watching and reading our emails for 2.5 years, and then they come in and go, why didn't I do this any sooner? And there's this whole thing, and part of our philosophy is around scaling with confidence, is having that confidence to ask for help. And you mentioned something a little bit earlier about value, and one of the things that we help and support MSPs with is valuing themselves. You went from hourly rates, all of a sudden I'm on £50 an hour, £60 an hour, £70 an hour. And one of our philosophies is around £10, £100, £1,000 an hour tasks. So the £1,000 hour, your strategic task where you should be spending your time. Now, we know MSPs who are charging £35 a user. We know MSPs who are charging £200 a user. We know MSPs who drive Minis. We know MSPs who drive Ferraris. They've got a car, they've got a service. It's the same thing. It's that value. And when they start to value themselves and what they're doing, and how their business is operating, and recognising that they are adding massive value to their clients. Question, MSP wakes up first of the month, he opens up his bank on his phone and he's just been paid £175,000. In that morning, Has he delivered £175,000 worth of value? No. But across the year and across the month and across all his clients and the value that he's adding to those clients,
It's been accrued.
absolutely much, much more than that.
Yes.
And when they sit back and listen to other people and understand that it's not about the money, it's about the value that they're offering their clients. Their sales language changes, their closing rate changes, they're resonating with people when they're out talking to people changes, because you've actually just valued yourself.
I certainly remember in those early days when I was scared to, I can't charge another £2. Yeah, or they might all leave me.
Yep.
And it didn't matter how many stories I'd heard of people doubling, trebling their price. They lose half the base, but they're still in the same position. I could not, at 25 years old, bring myself to do that because I was too worried about putting food on the table. Yeah. What sort of things do you do to help people get to that realization?
A big thing on there is put your prices up. It's really easy. Go and put your prices up. Okay, yeah, I'll put my prices up. Oh, look what it's going to do to me. How do I put my prices up? So we help them with the how. How do I build the great team? How do I make sure that the team that I've got today is going to be the team that's going to turn into a leadership team? How do I do these things? So what we do is we offer lots of frameworks around the methodology of putting your prices up. And it's not just a case of just put 10% on it and keep quiet, hide under the desk, and everything will be okay on the second day of the month when the direct debits come through. We say no, because we know that they're not going to do that, just like you. They're not going to do that because they're going to be scared.
Really interesting what you're saying about not knowing how to put prices up, because I remember having a conversation with one of my mentors, and he said, right, this is all you got to do. And it's so easy when you're at the top looking down, telling everybody what to go and do. But I was petrified. And he said, all you need to do is go and speak to the client, be polite, draw a box, a small box, and draw a big box, and say, this is what you're paying me. And then push the big box across and say, this is all the value I'm adding. I am losing money every which way I look at it. The realization, it was disturbing because you look back and go, God, why didn't I do this earlier? Was that took me probably 9 years to get to that point, to realize there was no way out, because I didn't really understand my numbers. I thought I did. I understood them at a base level, but I never truly understood how top line converts to gross, converts to net, and what my time was worth. I was too busy exchanging my time for money. It really resonates what you're saying, because it's amazing that all these years on, people are having exactly the same problems, no matter what business they're in. They just haven't valued themselves effectively.
And if you take that and then what Ian's talking about, the how, and it's like, well, how do I do that? Well, you can Google that. We can Google anything on the planet about how. We can go and watch YouTube videos. And the how is one thing, but also holding your hand and being able to actually talk to people who've done it last month and actually see what happened. And not just one person, but multiple people. And coming back to your question about how do we help MSPs scale, is that we not only help them work out why they want to do it, and I'll come back to that in a moment, but we show them how they can do it safely. But then the key to how, because it's easy to say, well, that's how I do it, but I'm going to avoid doing it, is that we connect them to their why. The why is, and we talked about earlier, that, the North Star. What is this going to give you? And so if you're wanting to build a business that works for you rather than you for it, and you do want to scale beyond it just being you and a few technical people with a lifestyle business, which is fantastic, but that's a choice. If you do want to become more ambitious and build that business, then actually why are you doing it? And when you really become clear about your North Star, starting with the end in mind, your vision, your mission, whatever language you want to give it, but also you stay connected to it on a weekly, daily, monthly, quarterly basis, which is what we do with our clients. We allow you to compress the amount of time required, because we also show you the how, but we also hold your hand, and other MSPs hold your hand and hold you accountable to doing it. So you make less mistakes in less time to achieve the things that everybody knows what to do, but don't do because we're scared.
Yes.
And if we can help you spend more of your time in your growth, in the growth zone, the learning zone of being a business owner, and less time in your comfort zone of where you're at, comfortable being a technical, doing everything as you were doing. And it took you 9 years to understand the impact of how your actions impacted your P&L.
Yes.
Now, Microbyte's 22 years old. Would you have liked to have got it to this stage in 11 years instead of 22 years?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what we do at the MSP Growth Hub, to help ambitious business owners get out of their own way and connect with their North Star if they're ambitious and they want to build a business that works for them rather than them for it.
I've learned a lot of skills that I
Yes.
probably didn't need to know. Now, have they made me a better all-round character? Well, quite possibly. You know, we are where we are because of the mistakes of yesteryear, right?
Of course.
Now, here's a question then. Of all the MSPs that come to see you, how many would you say give an effective answer as to, you know, when you ask them the 5 whys, that they know broadly where they're going?
Not many, but what they can see is the first hill. It's like, I want to be more profitable. I don't want to work 80 hours a week. Okay, great. If you weren't working 80 hours a week, what would that give you? Well, we never go on holiday because we can't afford to. Because when I look at my accountant gives me my accounts, he says I've made a profit, but I've got no money in the bank. Okay, so we need better cash flow. So that first starting point is quite a tangible, tactical requirement. I would like more time for me. I'd like to see my kids more often. I'd like to be healthier, possibly, because I haven't looked after myself, and I'm not making as much money as I could do. What we find then, as they start to see the results coming from that, and that can be in like 3 or 4 months, we see their confidence grow, as Ian was saying, and they go, well, actually, I think I'd like to build something. I think we could get to 1 million in revenue, and I think our recurring revenue could exceed our overheads every month. And I think that we could pay off the bounce back loan that I used during the pandemic and, you know, cost me £800 a month to service. And that £800 a month could go in my holiday pot.
Yeah.
And then we find people, and then we've had experiences like, well, how could I grow faster? Instead of how can I stand still and just cope from 1 week to the next. And as we take away the noise, you know, businesses grow to the size of the thinking of the owner. And we encourage our clients to think about the right things consistently, such that their actions then follow through on the right things. And that's what shows up in their numbers, in the time that they're not working in the business, what they can do next, how they can go faster, and possibly exit, or, you know, only work 1 day a week, or whatever. You know, suddenly they have more time, more profit, and more freedom. And when you've got that, you've got more choice in life. Buy another business, sell the business, have more children,
Yes.
adopt children, whatever you want to do.
Just adding to that, the part you were just mentioning about, you know, giving them the right things to do, and aligning them up with the growth planning session, and how we align with their next steps. It's also about us quickly identifying what the actual next step is. So if your business is on a runaway train and the operations team are clattering away and you've got staff attrition going crazy, now is not going to be a good time for you to go and do a load of account management. We need to steady the boat. And literally from the first time we speak to an MSP, the first conversation, we could almost map out their growth planning session.
Wow.
So we could go all the way through the sales process. It will take as long as you like, because we don't really sell to people, because we need to make sure that we're a right fit. You know, if someone came to us and said, I need £5,000 worth of monthly recurring revenue next month, we'll go, brilliant, go and get yourself a salesperson and go and crash some doors, get your shoe leather on and go and do that. But if you want to build a business, you know, as Stuart's saying, profitably, give you more time, profit and freedom, because you're investing in that asset, but it's doing the right thing at the right time. And many MSPs get into overwhelm straight away, because they have all of this stuff that they're hearing people are doing, and we've got this and we can do that. We can do sales, marketing, team building, leadership, vision, mission, account management. Everything is all at once. But we will just recently, we've just really gone quite deep into a couple of our clients and said, I'm only giving you 2 priorities for the next 4 months, because when I give you 4, you don't do them, because you get overwhelmed. So you're going down to 2. And if you don't do those 2 in the next month, you're going down to 1.
Right.
So it's us, and that's the next step for you, because this is the logical step that you've got all these other dominoes we're going to knock down this year, but if we do this one first, this is going to help you get the more time.
I remember it was on a podcast, Gary Peaker, one of my idols, I would say, from the States. And he has this great little mantra, which is look back over the last 5 years for everything you were ever worried about and scared about, and name me one example where it happened.
Yep.
And I think, Jesus, no, it doesn't. Like in the MSP IT space, all of the things we're worrying about, because we're given all this risk, or we're taking all this risk on for the clients, and backups, disk space, whatever else it is, end users kicking off. But yet, we only ever seem to think about the worst that could happen with all of those things, and possibly some of it's human nature. I would probably argue that it's a bit more real when we're taking on and managing businesses' IT, because can you name me any other sector that gets this involved with every element of a business? Right? There's nobody. And so we're getting all sorts of questions coming at us from clients, not just about the IT, but I'm thinking about opening in Guatemala. What should I do over there? And you expect me to know what broadband to broadband circuit to put in Guatemala, and it's all of these things that interact, and they've got nowhere to go from a client's perspective, and so they look at their MSP. But of course, this now comes back to the point: when we were 5 people, and we were effectively running an IT support shop, but charging a monthly fee for it, we didn't have the capacity. We were expecting our help desk boys and girls to take calls and answer a question about strategy and budgets. What kind of discussions are you having around those sorts of things? Because there must be plenty of people in the group saying, I'm getting these requests from customers, I'm getting those. It's not just about the IT anymore. How involved do you have to get involved with that side of things?
Well, the first thing I'd say, if you're having conversations with your clients about how do I expand in Guatemala, amazing. Because they're talking to you about how they grow. They're not talking to you about the quality of the Wi-Fi in the basement.
Patch management.
Yeah, because that's irrelevant. They're talking to you about their pattern. They're partnering with you in their language as opposed to treating you like an IT supplier. So my first point there would be, isn't that fantastic that you're being talked to strategically? Now, how you answer that question is down to you. But the fact that you are having means that you've done something to position yourself to be relevant in the boardroom, assuming the size of the client, or they value talking to you like that. And so that's a nice problem to have.
But you don't see it as that, do you, when you're at a particular
Well, you might
size?
not, but I think if you're still 4 men and yourself, and someone's asking you, then that client is possibly at risk of outgrowing you at that level. And clients, the biggest problem we hear, one of the problems is, my client's left me for someone else because they've perceived they've outgrown you. Now, could you have given them confidence about expanding in Guatemala? Maybe. You might have had to go and do some desk research and ring a few people, and you might have got away with being able to help them, even though you didn't know how to help them, because they were asking questions above your maturity level as a business. So I think you find that, staff and clients come and go depending on how they feel that you fit together at that point in the journey, which is why clients feel that they've perhaps outgrown. Or maybe you feel you've outgrown some of your clients and you're like, well, actually, I used to love working with you and I used to love the revenue you gave me, but it's only £150 a month. We're now dealing with clients that, really we want to be dealing with £1,200 a month.
Yes.
And so I think that's a great opportunity, but if you are a bigger MSP, then it's a case of, okay, have we got the skills and experience? Who's going to take responsibility for the strategic relationship with our clients? Maybe we need to employ people with more experience about global expansion.
It comes so much to being deliberate, right? It's all about being deliberate in your actions and not feeling like you're on the back foot. And hearing you both speak, there's definitely a piece in there about taking charge, taking control of your destiny as a person, as an MSP.
Absolutely.
And there's a great quote I heard that it says, if you don't change the world will change you.
Correct.
And of course, that's because, on a very basic level, that's everyone else's agendas, every other business that will force you into that cubbyhole. And so it's really interesting to hear, but it comes from a position of confidence to say, yes, that's brilliant, you're expanding, but you might not be right for us. And would we suggest that when you've got the confidence in your own business, in your own abilities, in your own machine to make more money, to get more customers, you're all of a sudden not as scared to get those sorts of queries that you might not be able to handle?
Absolutely, and you'll embrace them. And you were talking specifically around mature MSPs that might be having that conversation with you. And so therefore you can say, actually, does that fit with where we're going? Do we want to go down into the legal sector? Because perhaps there's an opportunity, because they're telling us that maybe we should set up in Guatemala.
Yes.
Shall we not? Does that fit with where we want our North Star? Maybe not. Maybe it does. What if we did it? What's the risks? And suddenly you've got the time to be curious about taking advantage of an opportunity. But when you are overworked, no time to think, no time to plan, you're the only leader in the business possibly, then you haven't got time to consider those opportunities. And I had a client actually who was 5-man in a van. A year after starting work with us, he embarked on an acquisition. And he said, Stuart, I wouldn't have embarked on that acquisition because it was an email that came into my inbox and I would have ignored it because I'd have gone, I can't take that on.
Yeah.
And it was somebody seeking to sell their business who I knew, and I would have turned them down a year ago because I wouldn't have had the confidence and think that it was relevant to me. But I had the time and the thinking to embrace the conversation, and it catapulted him from 600k to 3 million in a 5-year period.
Amazing. What a story. Well, actually, there's a perfect segue into the North Star piece, I think. The vast majority of, I won't even say MSPs, I think companies are probably wandering a bit aimlessly if they've got past a decade. Right? And I don't think that's unwarranted when you look at the number of businesses that get to 10 years, and they pretty much carry on as they are. To some degree, ours included, although we're changing directions a lot. I would say we're definitely guilty of those years of stagnation is probably a harsher word, but coasting. You're generally coasting. Number one, is coasting bad in your opinion? But number two, what is a North Star for most of these MSPs that are, let's say, 5-man in a van? I like that. That's a great place because they've got something going. They know they're onto something. Where do they start with this North Star? What should it be for them?
Good question.
Well, it's different for everyone. That's the thing. We talk about the MSP journey where you start off at survive and then you're moving up through the stages of drive, thrive, and we'll come on to that in a minute, and arrive. And what does arrive look like? Arrive might look like, I want to exit, I want to sell, I want to cash out, go and live in Spain, buy a villa, whatever it might be. Arrive might be, do you know what, I actually just want to do the technical stuff and I want to bring an MD in.
Yes.
And then I want to step back and still reap the profits and the rewards and enjoy being the business and hang on to it. Or it might be that you want to just have it to be a bit of a cash cow where someone else runs it. You have nothing to do with it, but it pays your children's school fees and your holidays and your car fund. So we spend a lot of time in asking them and getting them to think really deeply about what does arrive look like, what does exit look like, and at the growth planning session we go, first conversation we have is 3 to 5 years, and we bring it all the way down from 5 years to 16 weeks in about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Wow. And then the one thing that you need to do when you walk out of this room. And that's, what we're brilliant at, right? Yes. And that is because we understand that if you don't have that direction and that flow, and what does that look like? Every time someone goes off coast, we go back into your Power App and we go, oh, hang on a minute, this is what we're focusing on. This was what we were looking at when we were having this deliberate conversation at the beginning. Is this now still a thing?
Yeah.
Yes, right. Well, if we do that, are we going to achieve this? And 9 times out of 10, it's No, because there's a new PSA turned up, or there's a new Dell have released something, or I've got to go to this vendor event or something like that, and you're laughing because you've done it. It's bringing them back to understanding what that is, and it's really hard sometimes for people to think about. I don't know what that looks like.
Yes.
And that's where we spend a lot of time investing at the beginning in looking at what does that look like, because then that then starts to play out in what the business looks like. You know, the vision, the mission, the values, the boring corporate words that will transform your business and engage your team and get you to own or not needed.
And in many cases, you know, the scale with confidence model has three key pillars: harness ambition, amplify capacity, and maximize opportunity. And it's maximizing opportunity for your MSP in your marketplace, whatever your marketplace is. And that could be local, regional, national, international, intergalactic. You know, we're not quite there yet. With Elon might get us there.
He'll get us there.
But
Sell the first MSP contracts on Mars. Make a note of that, Steve.
vision, there we go. Is that, you know, for many MSPs who are kind of going, they're somewhere between 350k and 750. The next point of questioning or plateauing is sort of 1.2 million to 1.7.
Yes.
And then it's again about 3.5 to 4 million. But for the majority, it's this 350 to 750, 800k. And they have been just, you know, working from week to week, month to month. And so this North Star is, what would success look like, as Ian's saying? And for some, it's like, do you know what? It's just being the best locally.
Yeah.
Great. What does that look like then? How do we get you? Well, I don't know. Well, let's think about it. And again, another client said, I want to be the go-to number one IT support business in this town, city, actually. And actually, more broadly, if I can, in the wider county area. They now have, on the ring road, in the centre of that core town, an amazing office building which they can advertise to all the traffic driving past.
Brilliant.
And they have virtually achieved that goal in terms of being the number one in terms of visibility. And they're only just getting going.
Yeah.
But that was their core. And the wider county area is coming because their intent and the clarity about the staff, how I'm going to position myself in my marketplace,
Yes.
to maximise the opportunities of my business in my marketplace. How do I need to amplify the capacity? But then the other pillar, coming back to the three pillars, is then how do I harness that vision, ambition, to deliver that?
In terms of going back to the point on distractions for MSP owners, we're the worst. We're our own worst enemies because we were lured in by technology, and there's so much of it. Every week there's something new to see and get excited about. I mean, AI now, and, you know, if we were to come across an MSP, let's say, who we would think, oh, you know, great company, but you're a little bit all over the place maybe with your decision making or escalations. But if we were to find these telltale signs within these MSPs, where would you start with them? What would be the first question when MSP walks through your door? I use white label IT for my outsourced help desk. What are you going to ask them?
That's a great question, and it would be, you know, for me it would be, I mean, this is where it will be completely different. You know, for me it would be, you know, if we were ask someone, yeah, how's the business going? We wouldn't necessarily ask that question because they could say, oh, it's all right, and that's it, and then it finishes.
That'd be my answer.
But it's you know, it could be like, you know, how are things moving along? You know, what does winning look like for you in your MSP? Are you enjoying it? Are you frustrated? Are there signs of, oh, I'm just falling out of love with this? It's just, I'm just kind of like getting very frustrated, and I have to do all the work myself. My team aren't aligned. You know, we talk about MSPs that are at multi-six figures. So one thing we identified when we pulled our clients together, and before we joined, or when we joined together, and now we have our own clients together, there's three really clear avatars, and there's three completely different MSPs. 250 to 750, you know, where we help them to stabilize because they're running along and they've been busy, and they haven't necessarily got the right people. You know, between 750 and 1.5, we're strengthening. So you've got some senior people, they're great, but are they good enough to turn into a senior leadership team, which is a different position to a very good technician, to help you lead your technical team or your projects team or your sales and marketing team. So that's around strengthening the business so you can step back even more. And then from 1.5 up to 5 million, it's all around accelerating. So how does the sales and marketing perform and function? How's the numbers performing? How's the KPIs and all of that kind of thing? So, we would taper the question depending on what stage they're at, because we would know roughly what's the telltale signs. And if they said, yeah, everything's going okay, it's fine, great.
Yeah.
Who do you need us to connect you with to make it even better for you? If it's a bit of technology or something else like that, because the one thing that's blown us away is that to all the clients who've evolved through the program, they're just our untrained sales force that go out there and they're sitting there having conversation. There was a conversation the other day with one of the guys, and I got a selfie at 10 o'clock on Friday night from a guy I'd been chasing for 2 years, met him through the local Chamber of Commerce, just so happened to be an MSP, and he was sitting with one of our clients at a vendor event. And he sent me a selfie. He goes, I've just been listening to so-and-so talking about what you guys have been doing. And I said, do we need to have a chat? And he went, yeah. And that was it. On the Monday morning, we had a conversation. He came in the office. He's joined the program, and he's going, why didn't I do this 2 years ago? I said, because you weren't listening to me. But everyone's got to go through that process, and they've got to go through. Either they've got to hit rock bottom, or they've got to be curious about how they can make life easier, I think is the key thing.
I think that's the key thing. There's something that doesn't feel right for me right now, and I don't know what it is, and maybe the answer, someone else has got the answer. Yeah. And, there's that phrase, I think it comes from Kung Fu, is like, I don't know where it comes from, but it's like the teacher will appear when the student is ready.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And we can be in denial, I'll do it myself, and I'm going to go to the gym, and I'll put my back out, no, I'll keep doing more. And then we go, well, actually, if I just watched some videos or went on that training course, suddenly it all becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
And my question is also, what's the reason for the call today? And it's like, everything's fine, but...
Yeah, there's always a reluctance to tell you the truth.
Of course there is.
Imagine.
We don't want to admit that we can't cope,
Yes.
or that we don't know something. And therefore it's like, well, okay, so what's working, what's not working? Well, I don't know how to not work 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Would you like some help? Because you're aware, so why do you work 80 hours a week? And slowly but surely it's like, do you know what? I need some help.
Yes.
I can't do this on my own.
No.
And I'm willing to get out of my own way, my ego, to join something because actually I don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the model, the scale of confidence model that we use, because 90% of MSPs will come towards us on the back of some content or a conversation around, I need more business. It all starts off with, I need more business. But that's the third pillar.
Right.
And we don't let them anywhere near that vault until they've completed the first two. And the first one is all around, where's your North Star? Where's your purpose? How's the business going? Your headline numbers, your accountability, and making sure that you've got a business head on you. And then we look at your team, and then we look at the account management opportunities and sales and marketing. So when they come in and they see that, they go, right, okay. So, some of our best performing webinars and training courses have all been around sales and marketing, because that's what they think they want.
Yeah.
But when they come in and then they see the model and they're going, crikey, yeah, that's not quite right. And if, here's the question. How many clients does an MSP need to transform the business? And it's between 1 and 1.5 a month. It's no more than that.
Wow.
So if you think about the fact that an MSP needs 1, how many people do you need in your sales pipeline? This isn't massive numbers. No. Do you need HubSpot that's going to have 1,000 leads in it to get 1? And you're really good at closing. They're great at closing referrals and business because they're technically brilliant and they understand that. So you probably need 2 or 3 people floating around your world in your pipeline to keep on just delivering 1 client a month. So that's 3. So maybe that's only 10 people who are relatively, Do you see what I mean? The
Absolutely.
numbers are so small,
Yes.
and yet there's this massive. I've got to have 1 million impressions on Facebook. I've got to do. I've got because someone's told them that's how digital marketing works. But this is relationship building.
Again, I remember going through various iterations of marketing. Let's distribute these coasters, these pens, let's scatter down everything. All the money from this month, is going to go into, and then the realization hits. I think we talked off camera a little bit earlier that I don't actually need many to make this work. I just need the right ones. What part would you say that plays in these MSPs and their lack of growth?
I think that the typical thing with most MSPs is they sell the tech. They sell the technology. They go and sell Microsoft 365, Threat Locker, all other systems are available, blah, blah, blah.
But they're brilliant.
And they are, and they are good tools, but nobody is going to come to you and say, hey, I need Threat Locker. But they are going to come to you saying, I want you to keep my data safe and secure, because they get stuck with educating prospects and the business world in what they do, because they can't see it, because they're technical. Yeah. So I'm not technical, Stuart's not technical, so we've got this great ability to kind of hover over the top and actually say, that's not what you do this. These are the words you need to put into that content or that newsletter or that piece of material, and then just go out and add value, and people will go, I need what he does.
And to add to that, unfortunately, there is no magic bullet here, and it is the boring old, you need to know what your ideal client looks like. And that is really like, because that is the heavy lifting in marketing. Everything stems, if you want your marketing to be as easy as possible, and it's hard, you need to be super clear on your ideal client.
Yes.
Whether it's a 2 to 5 man band, small micro businesses, whether it's pure legal, get clear. And that is hard work. Yeah. And it's not just going, it's 10 to 20 seats businesses in Peterborough. That's lazy.
Yeah.
That's easy. Everyone does that. And then they go after everything in that business. Okay, it'll work to start with, but you'll start to be frustrated wasting money that isn't working because it's not resonating.
Right.
And that's what we do in all of those areas of helping the MSP scale, and they all want more business. But actually, what's the starting point? Know your numbers. Get your chart of accounts right first. Get your avatar clear.
We were talking off camera about your pyramid of
the MSP journey.
Yes. It would be great if you could outline those 4 or 5 stages and what they look like, what they mean.
Yeah, for sure. There's 4 clear stages, and this came from years of working with MSPs. But first of all, I did some research back in 2015-16 with Companies House and tax classifications, SIC codes, and literally the data pointed to the MSPs in the SIC codes relevant to them. 95.7% of MSPs were less than $1 million in revenue, and I was like, why is that? Isn't that interesting? Why is that? 96% of MSPs don't get. That led to the 3 pillars, the model. And then the MSP journey is that the majority start off in Survive, which is startup. Between 0 and 250, 300K. It's you, an admin, a tech.
Yeah.
And you can, if you get lucky, and you work hard enough, you'll build a business that will pay you 40, 50 grand a year, maybe, if you're lucky. But you'll end up working, for most, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week doing it. And you can do it because you're young. You're 20, you're 30 maybe. Life starts to get more complicated. At that point, there is a phase where you're trying to transition from I'm surviving to, okay, this is working. But I have to drive everything. And you're chasing everything. So there's no plan. You're needed for everything. And it's referrals.
Yeah.
There's no sales market. You haven't got time. It's driven by your ability to be busy enough, networking, whatever you're doing. But as you get lucky again and you win some more business, you're somewhere between 700 and 1.5 million. You enter this space called Thrive. You get particularly large client, you've been at it long enough, and it seems like, do you know what? For a little while, we are cooking on gas. But thrive is defined by being quite fragile. You've either got one big client or you've got a couple of key staff you're reliant on, and something usually changes on that journey. And Arrive is the top of the pyramid, and we spoke about earlier, Arrive is whatever it means to you. For many, in terms of scaling an MSP into a business that works for them rather than them for it, it's somewhere between 1 million and 1.5 as a minimum. You can have a nice business, 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 people tops, and you're able to work on the bits you enjoy. If not even step right back, depending on how you structure it and the way you use sort of systems or automation. But that 96% of MSPs are generally stuck in drive and survive. The survive bit's okay, because that's probably the lifestyle space. But those that are in drive and thrive are trying to get to their arrive, whatever it means to them. And if they're in thrive, they're frustrated because they've been knocked back.
Yes.
Maybe there's a lack of alignment between them and their fellow directors. They want different things. Maybe they can't retain reasonably good people that they can trust to manage stuff on their behalf, so they get dragged back in. Maybe they lose a big client. Maybe they lose their really best tech for years for whatever reason, and suddenly they're all 6s and 7s and they're dragged back down into chasing everything and driving everything. And MSPs can spend 10 years in that space of like, kind of, it's okay, I'm nearly there.
Yes.
But actually, there's just a few things that if they just were more confident, more aware, made different decisions, they could actually accelerate their progression through that fragile space to actually enter the place where the business truly works for them rather than them for it.
I really like that, actually.
And the trick to staying in the next phase of growth as you're moving up is by doing exactly what you do every day, which is building your own operating system for the business to run, so that you don't then fall down the gap when that person leaves, because you've got technical SOPs or whatever it is in place. You've got a sales and marketing engine that's working, or even if you haven't got a sales and marketing engine that's working, when you go to an agency or a marketing person, you know what good looks like. And that's the trick. That's the golden source of any support you're going to get to help grow and scale your business. It's how do you move to the next level without falling down, and it's by building those processes, the key KPIs, the measures, all the boring business stuff, which is what's incumbent in that model, that keeps them moving as a minimum, not moving backwards, moving forwards.
And ultimately, we teach you to be a confident managing director, sales director, marketing director, ops director, and finance director of your own business. Not because you've got to do it, the clue is in the word, so that you can direct others to deliver what you need from great finance setup, great operational setup, good sales and marketing, because most don't know what is needed to direct others, outsourced people, staff, to give them what they need from those areas of the business, because we've never done it before. And we compress the amount of time needed and mistakes you have to make to achieve that confidence so that you can scale.
I love that. I think you sort of hit the nail on the head, which is most of us don't know what a good job looks like unless we've done it before and seen it before.
Don't know what you don't know.
Right. And how many MSPs have grown a business before they start their MSP? Probably none.
Yeah.
And I think the message of hope that might be nice to ground this session with is that you can have a very successful MSP at around 1 million with 9-10 people in, and it isn't about scale or big numbers. It is that the success, however you want to look at it, the most broad way of looking at success is completely possible for most MSPs out there.
It is.
And they don't need to be £100 million in 50 different countries to get a life that looks right for them.
No.
I mean, one of our MSPs, we've literally just doubled his business since he's joined. He's just been with us just over 2 years. And when I look at him, if I was to describe him, he is embedded in his niche like you wouldn't believe. He is the technical expert in that niche. He is deliberate in what he does. He's not a shiny ball guy. He's deliberate in what he's doing. He's hard ahead of the curve. So he's had confidence in his numbers to put the right people in the right roles so that he can close. He can look at closing, and he's built a team that he's engaged, and he's told them exactly what he's doing, how it's working. They're all engaged. They're all working really hard with them. And every single week he will come, and even still the results he's got, he will ask a great question. And if he hasn't got a question, he'll ask around a subject. How is you guys doing this? Every single week. Just deliberate.
And what's amazing for us is that they're growing into their potential.
Yeah.
As coaches, we do this because we're wired to do it, and we want to see. We were put on this planet to help others grow. We've been there and done it in our own careers, and we're good at it. And so we've built a business that we enjoy doing and we're good at. And so to see the potential of taking people from overwhelm and five guys in a van,
Yes.
to being 28 people turning over 3.2 million and thinking acquisitions and, working hard still and having challenges, but living a life that they didn't have before, as in they are home for children's bedtimes. They do go on amazing holidays. They don't work 80 hours a week. There's still stress and ups and downs. Of course, that's life.
Yes.
But
They're in control of it.
They've harnessed their ambition. They're stepping into their potential. They're growing as men and women. And that's no greater reward for us than seeing that. How much fun is that?
Great place to end. Thank you very much for your time, gents.
Very welcome.
you.
It's been
Very
great fun.
inspirational.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.